Hey gang, welcome back to another video here at Jade's Garage. In the previous video, Jade Part 39, I did a comparison between the original fender for the car, a Taiwan fender that was made probably in the 80s, and a reproduction Scott Drake labeled fender that was terrible. So in that video, I figured out that I wanted to try to keep the original fender as much as I could, and that's what I've done at this point. I've started working on the original fender. If you like videos like this, I suggest you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to get more of these videos. Now, let me tell you what's going on with this fender. In the previous video, I talked about it having a bunch of body filler and paint and a whole bunch of junk piled onto this thing. Well, if you can see, I'll show you on the ground down here, I have a big pile of all the material that I removed from this fender. Now that I removed it, I'm surprised at just how good this fender is. I thought it was really bad because of all that Bondo and filler that was on top of it. But I'll go over the fender and show you the damage and what my plans are to fix it. Okay, I'm going to start at the rear of the fender. In the previous video, you would have seen this was coated or painted with Gulfstream Aqua. As it turns out, there was about 12 layers of material on this thing. And you know, it had the emblem here and the Mustang logo here. Those holes look like they're okay, but there is a dent behind where the Mustang with the 289 would have been positioned. Down here, there's two holes where it had the clip for the lower trim, which I'm going to eliminate, and also a bolt here for the forward clip. I'll fill those in and not worry about it. The bottom of the fender is in great shape other than a little bit of minor rust. As I move up and come forward, there's a little dent right there, a little bit of a dent maybe right here, very shallow. Come all the way forward and the front section looks great. As I move up again, this is where you would have had the bumper bracket mount, and as you can see, it's got filler, it's out of shape. Move up a little further, there's a dip right here, and then this is kind of wrinkled up in this front section. Up here, you can maybe see, I have a ruler, there are some low areas. So whatever the impact was, there was a dent there above, and it also works out to be slightly below the body line. So that's going to be an easy fix. As I move to the front, I found that it's bent right here where the valance would bolt to. This should be square, and it's not. It's recessed, pushed in, and that messes things up. I'll show you the headlight bucket. I'll put it back on or lift it into place and show you in just a second. The rest of this is a little distorted and out of shape, but not too bad. Then I come up here to this front section in the corner, and this is where it gets ugly. There was obviously an impact here, and you can just see all the junk and stuff that's in there that they tried to, you know, just cover it up. And I think I can do something with that. Come back this way, there's a dip right there, and it gets kind of high right here in the middle. So I don't know exactly what happened at this point, but I think I can massage most of this back into shape. On further back, the rest of it appears to be okay. There was a lot of filler in this area, a ton of filler. And again, I don't know why. I can feel a couple little low spots here and there, but nothing dramatic that would require a ton of filler. Further back, it does have a hole cut in it for the antenna. I'm going to eliminate that. Otherwise, the rest of it is in pretty good shape. Really kind of surprised. Now, also up here, I did point out in the previous video, the back side of this is rusted through. I'm going to fix this, I believe. Most of it is good, and I'll address that. I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. So let me get the headlight bucket extension and put in place and show you what it looks like. Now, as I've shown in the previous video, I did a fitment test with the extension with the various fenders, and obviously it fit the original one the best, but as I put it up in place, what I found is this, from like here all the way out to the outside, is perfect. There's not a flaw in any of that. Just looks and feels right on the money. Here though, now I know why they had all that filler packed onto the front nose of this. So not only was this built up, but this face here where the extension fits against, all of this was just full of Bondo. So now that I can see what I need to do, I can address this. And it's probably not going to be as hard as I thought it was, but I'll show you what I plan to do. Otherwise, I have really no complaints. It's a solid fender. It's going to be good to work with. Now moving forward, I'm going to take a very simple approach to this. I'm going to drill out the spot welds around the perimeter of this recess piece that sits in here, and that'll allow me to access this area, and even straighten out this piece down here and get everything squared up the way it should be. While I have that out, I'll patch this piece in the back. I will also put this in a media blaster, clean it up as best I can. And once I get all of this straightened out, then I'll weld this back in. The idea is, once I get this out of here, I can look at this piece, take a straight edge, as I mentioned before, I've shown before, and it'll give me an area to work towards. And I should be able to massage this out and figure out what's going on up here. If I need to cut another piece, I will. But I think that is going to be the fix. All these other areas, again, pretty minor, and a hammer and dolly will take care of most of this fender. I'm pretty excited about it. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than what it is, and so that's what I'm going to do. Now to do this, I'm just going to, again, drill out these spot welds and try to separate everything. What I'm doing is I'm feeling for the low spot. There's already paint there showing me that it's a low spot, but I want to feel it as well, just to make sure. Metal so thin it's splitting apart from where they ground on it. And there's one up here, I'll show you. One up here on this tab. I think there's only one. I hope there's only one. Success! Now with that reinforcement piece removed, there's something else I want to look at, because there are wrinkles here, but I also see there's a crack, and I can see that the metal is distorted on the backside here. So I'm going to remove the rest of this material and get a better look at this flange. This would be the most forward bolt that mounts to the apron, but I'm going to get this cleaned up and we'll have another look at it. So I've removed some more material on the inside here, some more filler, and I found a dent going in and also kind of a crack and overlap. So this is definitely out of shape and pushed down, but I wanted to verify that. So what I did is I brought in the other fender off the car, the other original fender, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to kind of test and see how far off this is. Now to start with, I wanted to find a known, or what I would consider a known location. I couldn't go off the front because this one's out of shape, so I don't know where, say, a 0 datum line is. But if I go from the back, and I went all the way to the rear of the mount flange for the fenders, so way back here on each of these is the end of what would mount to the aprons. So I measured from there forward, and I put an indication at 31.5 inches. Now this is just an arbitrary number, but they're at the same location on each fender. Then what I did is I took a piece of cardboard and I put the line of this piece of tape at 31.5. I set the cardboard against it, lined it up even, and then I traced that fender. So now what I want to do is cut this out, and then I can lay this on top of this fender and get a better visual as to how far off this actually is. Actually, I have two templates now. So I could take this one and set it back against the inside here and see how close I am to hitting the same locations. And that's pretty accurate. If I come over to this side, yep, there's a big difference. So I'll show you that. I don't know how well you'll see the difference, but if I set this at that same tape line and press it down against that flange, I can see that this is down below the cardboard. If I try to inverse that, let's say I put this piece on top, and that should be a good representation there. Put this one on top, and you can actually see a gap, a pretty substantial gap underneath that cardboard. Now what I can also do is use this as a reference for the point location. So I can take the Sharpie and again just set this on that line where I had it indexed before and draw the end point. Then I can flip that over and draw it on the back side, so I have it on both sides. And again, set that up on here. Yep, I got some work to do. I have another observation that I want to show you. If I take this long straight edge and I put it on the inside of the flange on the driver's side fender, it is relatively straight all the way through. It tapers off a little bit here in the back, but that's trivial. So that shows you one thing. Now if you look at this one, this fender, hopefully you can see the visual of it, there's a peak right here. So there's a big gap up front and a big gap in the rear. For whatever reason, when this fender was hit, it did a couple different things. It rolled it down, it creased it or bent it right here, and then I don't know if it was because of the impact, this section right here is pushed out. The fender even has a bit of a deflection to it right there. Now hopefully I can massage this area back in and try to get it back to what would be square, because again, this is, if I line it up on this back half from this high point, you can see how wide this is. And if I go the other way, of course, it would do the same thing on the back, only, and it's hard to show you this, but I can get 3 fingers or better back here on the back side. So, a couple things that I have to deal with, but I think I can do something with this and hopefully get the fender into the shape it needs to be. For the most part, it's flat all the way through here, which is a good sign. I come over to the opposite fender, and it has just a little bit of a taper on this end, which is expected, because that's how it's supposed to be. So, yep, I got some playing to do. Alright, so the first thing I want to try to do is get this corner up a little bit, and to do that, all I'm going to do is put a piece of wood underneath that corner so it's got some support, and then I'm going to take basically a 5-pound dead blow that I have and strike it right around that area where the overlap or the kink is. And all I'm trying to do is get this corner up a little bit, as I had said before. Take my template, and that's pretty close. Let me show you another angle. That's all it really took. I mean, it's up, and I know there's some other adjustments that are going to be made, but it's a big improvement over where it was, especially since I have to cut this apart anyway. I just don't like the way this is formed, but at least now I have some improvement. I still have to work this and get it flat, and to do that I'll probably use a hammer and dolly, come in from the back side and try to flatten that piece back out. You can see it moves, but I'll have to work on that a little bit. So I have this big bar, and I'm going to use a hammer that's made for like door skin repairs. It's already an improvement. I should be able to flex this a little bit down, compress these back together, and weld that, because there's a, I don't know if you can see it very well, I'll try to show you, it's got a crack on this side. So right there is where the metal was overlapped, and I can flex that out. That's going to help get that shape back the way it should be, or at least close. I may end up having to trim a little bit of material out of this gap because the metal has been stretched and pushed back together, so it has to have somewhere to go. And if I force this down and make that overlap like it should, you can see up here, hopefully see, the panel doesn't line up. So maybe it has a little bit too much material in the way at the moment. I can let go of that and it's going to stay because I got the metal pinched together. I'm kind of curious to look at how that template matches up. So this is the piece that I had cut off, the skinny piece. Now so it shows it a little bit high now on this end. So I can adjust it. I'll have to find the happy spot and then remove some material and weld that back together. Well, what I found is after I flexed it just a little bit and I was retesting the template, I'm pretty happy with that. So I did not remove any material from here, but I am going to tack weld this together right now so that it stays in that location. If you're interested, the settings on my welder are B on the heat and about 2 on the speed. And all I'm doing is some tack welding, and the wire is .025 or .023. I forget which one it is now, but yes. Little piece of square tubing. Now that little corner has come back together for the most part. Looking better already. That technique is hammer off dolly. I've got a little bit of a high spot right here, so I want to work this part up and that part down, so I come off where the high spot is and just tap past it, and that helps kind of push that down a little bit. Now this part has a little bit more of an overlap, so I'm going to dress off this little corner down here so that it comes together and creates a straight seam. The plan now is I want to bring this is a little bit of a low spot behind the weld. I want to bring that up a little bit, so I'm going to put a smaller bucking bar on top. Just kind of tap that up. Now it may take a little bit of filler right here, because this is just really tough to get flat. But I'm just trying to get as close as I can. That already looks so much better. I'll probably add a little bit more weld just in that little low spot right there in the corner. Blend that, blend off what's left of this filler that's in there. Much better. I did do a little more tack weld down in the corner. There's still a little bit of blending to do on this flange that comes up, but again, perfect, at least in my opinion. So the next thing I'll probably do, I'm going to leave this alone for the moment, but back here, as I'd mentioned, where there's actually a hump right here. I know it's hard to see that, kind of hard to demonstrate it. But when I put that straight edge across, you know, this was the high point right there. What I think I am going to try to do, because again, if you look at it and how you want to change the shape of something, you have to consider what metal, or where the metal has to go, let's say. So for this to come down, there has to be a relief here. And I'll show you that from a different angle. Okay, so again, this is the high point. If I put the straight edge on, this thing will teeter back and forth on that high point. Hopefully you can see that. I know it's hard to see from the reflections or the color, but this is definitely high, and there you can even see maybe the raised portion in the middle where this is kind of humped up. Now again, the plan is I'm going to cut a relief cut through this hole all the way to where it meets the radius, kind of kicks back down or back in, so that the metal has somewhere to go as I compress it. It's wanting to bind because it's catching on that upper edge, so I have to change positions a little bit. As it goes down, you can see it's opening up just a little bit, which is fine. You know, it has to move. So let me get a hammer and dolly, see if I can't work this down a little bit. What you should be able to see is the gap at the top is tighter now because these pieces are coming together. I'm trying not to block the camera with my hand, so that's why I'm changing up position so much. And that already looks a lot better. Still a little bit high, but not bad. Not bad. I think I can get some more out of it. That's really close. Yeah, that's really close. I think I may run with that. Okay, as you can see, or I hope you can see, I put a piece of 1-inch square tubing behind this, gently clamped it. I didn't put a whole lot of tension on it. I just wanted to spring this down just a little bit. And now I'm going to line up this flange and tack weld this back together. That already looks better. Again, doing a comparison, straight edge. This one has a little bit of a gap back here. This one, it's really close to being right on the money. And I know it's a lot closer than what it was before, so that's one of those, I'm happy with that situations. If I set this up here, it just says an arbitrary measurement on like 29 inches. I can look at how much of a gap there is underneath here now and compare that to this one, and it's virtually the same. Okay, that's going to be the end of this segment of this rebuild on this right front fender for the 68 Mustang. I don't want this video to be an hour long. I want to try to keep it a little bit shorter and more viewable for everybody. But I think I covered some good information and showed you a good way to do some of these repairs should you need it. Now the next segment of the video, I'm going to be working on this front corner specifically, because this metal is all wrinkled. I want to cut this out, build a repair piece and get that in there, and then also work on fitting the inner structure that goes behind the headlight itself. But I think everything is looking pretty good. As I said before, I did not expect this fender to be as solid as it is. There are a few other things that I will need to address dent wise, but I'll go over that as we go along. But that'll be the end of this segment. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell notification button, and I want to give a shout out to all those who have been using Amazon to buy products, helping me with this channel, and also those that have been patrons to this channel as well. I appreciate that very much. There are still t-shirts available on Teespring, various other pieces and parts, mugs and posters and all that sort of thing. So if you're interested, have a look at Teespring. But that's going to be it. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya. I have it's craft time to do anything. I may have to make it better. Let me start that over.